I always say like the hardest decisions I have to make as a veterinarian, they are not medical. Oftentimes they're financial.
Why is this profession so scared of disruption?
The newer generations are quite open. And then like seeing things with, AI scribes and there's better ways of doing things. And other veterinarians, the younger ones are graduating and they're seeing their friends have different types of jobs. And then, we're over here like, well, as vets, like, can we kind of like, evolve and change some things? Our mission at Veg is helping people and their pets when they need it most. And we're in this job to help people and pets. And so we have to know how to help them both.
All day Sunday, all day Monday. And then I flew out at 4 a.m. out of Orlando back to LA yesterday. So it was,
Oh,
I made about 140 connections.
excellent.
Yeah. A lot of people very interested, whether it's marketing, or, podcast, sponsoring podcast. A lot of the AI companies, I talked to them about starting a CE, a race approved CE on just new AI technologies for the veterinary profession. They were interested in that. And then what else? God, Ready Vet Go. Danny and I were like, together attached to the hip the whole time
Yeah,
because,
similar mission.
yep, exactly. So we were having fun with that. It was so cool, and it really it almost brought a tear to my eye. Now it almost does again. Is just how many vet students were getting pictures with me because they were listening to my podcast.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Right.
amazing. Yeah, I
And
mean, that's your focus, right? 0 to 5 years out.
yep, exactly. 0 to 5, because that's where you got to build the roots.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know, and that,
absolutely. That's
and
great.
that's
And
where
I'm glad there were vet students there too.
there were a ton of vet students there, so many, and then what is it called? Not Lemonade, the insurance, but Dr. Molly has a group called Lemonade or something like that. That's a whole bunch of influencers. Um,
Oh, I think they maybe do marketing, social
mm,
media,
yeah,
social media management, maybe something
yeah,
like
social
that.
media marketing. All these influencers, they were there, um, and so I didn't really get a chance to talk to any of them, but I did get to talk to some of the other ones that were doing stuff. Um, the vibe was very positive all around. Um, I got to know what they put in the water at the veg booth because I've never seen so many people so happy before.
We get that question a lot.
It's like Google, it's like,
I work for the Google of Vet Med.
you do. Do you have sleep pods?
I do. Do
Because
we have no? But we have hammocks.
you do.
Yes,
So,
we
so there's
do.
an emergency clinic here in Orange County that actually has sleep pods.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, hey, you need it. I sleep when I work overnights. I take naps if I can.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I feel
as you
too
should.
guilty.
So it's allowed. I mean, as long you can't go into like a deep slumber. I usually like lay out a yoga mat, like put on a meditation and just lay there until someone's like, "Hey, you have a call. Hey,
Something's
there's an
crashing.
emergency." Yeah. Yeah,
There's a dog.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. That post-operative PIO is crashing in the ICU.
Yeah, time to run. Wake
Yeah,
on up.
I know. So, are you going to go to Vegas?
I'm not. This year I'm out on all of them. I went to both last year and they were fantastic. I have
Mhm,
FOMO. It's real, but I ultimately I as you know, I call myself the veterinarian living out of a suitcase
mhm.
and it was a little too much suitcase and not enough home, so I'm home right now.
You're back in Texas right now?
Yep, I'm
Oh,
back in Texas, Houston, Texas.
yeah. Wow. Unbelievable. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
what else are you doing now? Other than that, that's
I'm ER doctoring. That is my primary
mm,
focus. I did when I graduated Texas A&M in 2018 and was actually going through your previous podcasts and my classmate Silva Lynn, the honest vet, she was on here for 2 episodes, and
Yeah.
that was great. You guys had a great discussion, um, and then we had Brianna, who also went to Texas A&M. So lots of people then. But so after in 2018, I kind of did things backwards. I you were allowed to track alternative at Texas A&M, and I did, and I studied business innovation. Went to different headquarters, from like Mars to Trupanion to Ethos to Pathway and Thrive, different headquarters to kind of experience vet med from a different angle. And then when I graduated, I had a hybrid role. So I was doing campus recruiting, kind of working a little bit at headquarters and then practicing general practice. And then I went to work for Veg and I was full time off the floor. And so
Hmm.
I was working in an office for the last 5 years. So very different than practice. And then this past year, I've been full time in practice. So going back to the medicine. Now, when I was doing all of the other stuff, I was still practicing, but it was like a couple times a month. It was not, every single day. And so this past year from January to now, January again, I've been one full year in practice, and it's been humbling, and I've learned a lot, and I still have lots to learn. But it's, kind of helped my confidence as a doctor, being able to, having practiced general practice before and now, be really in the weeds of ER. It's been exciting. It's been challenging. And that has been majority of my focus. Over the last year, I also launched a business with one of my classmates called the Evolved Vets, and we're since going in different directions. She's going to continue to run it, but that was taking up a lot of my time last year as
Right. That's
well.
well, we talked earlier, and you were doing Evolve Vets last
Uh
time we
huh.
talked.
Yeah, yeah. So it was quick. We launched a podcast, and Bethany, she still has the podcast going, and we did the podcast first, and we were talking about all of the things in veterinary medicine that aren't really clinical. I always say, like, the hardest decisions I have to make as a veterinarian, they are not medical. Oftentimes they're financial. And so we talk about all of the things like emotional intelligence, communication, confidence, self awareness, knowing what your values are, and being able to find a job that kind of aligns with those. And so we would talk about that. We would interview people, and then we launched a training platform. So there's race approved CE that teaches a lot of these topics, and a community around that. So we're doing that, and or Bethany's continuing to do that. But we did that throughout the year, and there's a lot of interest in it. Of course, right? We talk about burnout all the
Right.
time. So this was our attempt to put something forward that was material and types of learnings that helped both of us in our careers.
Well, I mean, uh, there's so many things that you just said, and it's amazing to me because I gotta I first thing I gotta ask is how did you know you were so interested in the business track of veterinary medicine while you were in vet school?
Yeah, it it hit me in second year. It wasn't something I was expecting. I went into vet school, and all I wanted to do was be an aquatic animal veterinarian. That's all I wanted to do. I All of my experience had been, not all of
You
it,
were
the
at the wrong
majority.
school for that. Isn't that Mississippi State? Isn't Mississippi
Florida.
State and
Florida
Florida?
has a good program. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's more now that have good programs. And we actually had Dr. Ray Tarpley. He was a mentor, and he started Marvet, which is a certification you can get. You go to the Cayman Islands and kind of work with St. Matthews, and then the vet school there, and you can get a certification. So I did that, and so there was a little bit there. But since I was 18, 19 years old, I was going to aquatic animal conferences. It's called the International Association of Aquatic Animal Medicine. I did that
Right.
for 5 years. It took me to Australia. It took me, to all different places around the world where those vets would come together. And man, it was cool. It was just interesting. I remember there were talks on like how to do anesthesia on an electric eel and how to do surgery on this stuff. It was wild. And so I was fascinated with that. I had done like a kind of like a thesis and marine mammal research, trained dolphins in Hawaii, rescued sea lions in the Channel Islands, kind of out by you, and yeah, all that sort of stuff. So got to vet school. Every time we'd be learning something about a dog or cat, I'd be like, well, how does that work? And I'd open up my textbook that had all of the aquatic animal medicine in it. And fast forward to second year, I was always in the VBMA, which I can't say
Right.
enough good things about the VBMA.
Yep.
And I became an officer with them. And then we had Dr. Adam Little and we had Aaron Massacre come to Texas A&M with Dean Green. They were all very forward thinking. And so they started what has now become the Veterinary Entrepreneurship Academy. It was then called the Veterinary Student Innovation Program. And we were like the guinea pigs for it. And so we raised our hand. They were like, they came in like April and they're like, it's going to be this summer and we're going to match you with a company that does something on the fringes of vet med and you'll kind of be like a veterinary consultant for them. And we're going to teach you about the lean startup methodology and like all of these different business things with a focus on innovation. And I'm like, okay, like I have all my externships planned for the summer. I'm like back to back, around the world doing different things, but like, and they were like, no, but you can work remotely. And I was like, what is that? and,
That was
and
before COVID too.
it was before COVID. Yeah, yeah. This was like
Wow.
2016.
Wow.
And and they're like, yeah, you're going to be working with these people from Israel and like they're developing this digital slide scanner called Scopio and like you're going to be partnered with them. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And yeah, that transformed everything. They opened my eyes to a world that I didn't know about. They kind of like went, back in the day to when 100 more than 100 years ago, and we were like, what is the biggest problem going to be for society? Like, it's going to be that we have horses everywhere and like the manures piling up in the streets, and what are we going to do about the smell and the diseases? And like, then boom, like, cars come in and it's like, well, that's not even a problem anymore. Why are we so worried about that? And and it's just kind of like a lesson for innovation, disruption, that like, you can spend all this time worrying about something, but like other stuff's going to come. And like, how do you kind of have some foresight for that, and sort of pivot when you're in business to adapt? So yeah, my mind was blown. And then I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, I'm obsessed with this now. And I think there's also realities of like the lifestyle as I got closer to graduating vet school and going into aquatic medicine, and the people who were like a year or two older than me, I saw them going through internships. And you have to typically do, I know you talked to Cheryl Stout, who I met in South Africa earlier this year. She's wonderful. So
Yes.
she has the whole story, but you're doing multiple internships, and then like maybe you're getting matched to one of the openings for like a residency somewhere in the world, but you don't exactly know where. There's a handful of jobs and you're getting paid pennies. And I just met who's my, he was my boyfriend then, now my husband. And I'm like, how am I gonna do this? And so since I was interested in both, I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I'm giving up on this dream, but like maybe it can be something I still do on the side, and then kind of go after this business thing. So yeah, that's the story.
Well, I mean, well, the one thing I could tell you is that during COVID, obviously it was crazy, right? Crazy times for the profession. The one thing my wife and I were always envious of was the fact that all our best friends during COVID could work from home and they were more successful. So there's something to be said about that remote type of work. Is that what got you into let me do this out of a suitcase?
Yes, I this sounds I always feel a little bit embarrassed saying this as a veterinarian, but like one thing that's important to me personally is to have flexibility. I value that a lot, and like flexibility and freedom, and I've always wanted a remote job. Like and I haven't necessarily had a remote job, but like it's not that I'm not an anti-people person. I actually really love
Hmm.
being in person. I just want flexibility, and I think that's what I see in people. Like my husband, he owns his own business and he just needs a laptop. He can work from anywhere. So it's really this like work from anywhere kind of mentality. And I have figured out how to do that as a vet. I'm licensed in like 13 states, and I just get licensed where I want to practice. And so while there are things like when I was doing the Evolve Vets, and there were some aspects of my job at Veg when I was working at the headquarters that I could have flexibility to do in other places. So that's been rewarding. But you can do that as a vet practicing. So I that's what I do now, traveling, being able to go to different states and cities to
And,
practice.
and then you said while you were in vet school, you kind of got, you said my favorite word, which was disruption. Do you, yeah, it's a great word.
Yeah. I love it too.
Why is this profession so scared of disruption?
It, I think there are things. There might be a couple of reasons. The newer generations are quite open,
Hmm.
because I think
I
we've had
agree
examples.
100%.
I think we've had examples of companies being able to successfully do things a little bit different. I obviously I have a bias, but like Veg being one of them. And then like seeing things with AI scribes, and there's better ways of doing things, and other veterinarians, the younger ones, are graduating and they're seeing their friends have different types of jobs, and then we're over here like, well, as vets, like, can we kind of like evolve and change some things. So I think there's a desire for that. Of course, there's kind of like a cohort of people who are still in practice, who've been practicing for years and years and years, and they're like, no, this is how it's been, or we want to go back to the good old days, because they probably did have like good old days that were, when practice was good, before everyone was like leaving reviews on the internet, and like just the
The
high
early
demand.
2000s, the early
Yeah.
2000s before the Great Recession were like the roaring 20s for the veterinary profession.
Well,
It
there you
was
go.
it was
So
unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And I guess part of my vision and mission is to make sure that everyone can get that again, because now you're right, the online reviews, and one person's pissed off, they tell the world. And just I think like people in general, society in general, has lost a lot of empathy. A lot of people don't really have those filters anymore. They just basically tell you exactly how they're feeling, and most of it's by a keyboard warrior. um when you were outside, right, looking in, what was the different view? Because you said you saw things, you got to see things from the other side. What was the different view you were seeing that those of us who are just, I would say, doing the grind of the clinic don't get to see?
yeah, yeah, lots of patterns. And then so I have kind of maybe like two examples. So when I worked for Thrive and Pathway, I had a little bit of a broad view. What I got from there was just this appreciation. For anyone who's done any kind of campus recruiting or gone to an event, there's an energy that the vet students have that is so infectious, and it's really healthy for
It is.
practicing vets to go and give back to vet students, because they are like bright-eyed and inspired, and they're like grasping on your every word, and they're really hopeful for what's to come. And I think it's fantastic if you can go there and paint a bright picture for them and show them all of the just kind of like the breadth of veterinary medicine, and how if something is not making them happy, just like change, just make a change. There's so many things you can do. And so I think one, just this appreciation for new grads and vet students, and so like not forgetting that excitement that you have early career. And then once, when I'm at Veg, I started and we had about 10 hospitals, and now we have over 130. And what we would see is one, the importance, I think we took it really seriously, the importance of mentorship, which you talk a lot about as well. And so we were very careful in how we carved out what our mentorship would look like so that it was not just clinical. We're teaching leadership, we're teaching communication, we're teaching how to respect other people in a clinic, and those other people being your coworkers,
Mm.
your self talk, and then also customers. Our mission at Veg is helping people and their pets when they need it most, and so we're in this job to help people and pets, and so we have to know how to help them both. And so we took mentorship very seriously, and we're intentional with how we would train those other aspects of like what it means to be a great doctor, and business skills as well, right? Understanding how you're paid, that's important. And what else did we see? One thing that I think gets overlooked quite a bit is vets who are maybe like 10 or more years out. How do you, especially in ER, but anywhere, how do you keep them engaged and like inspired at their job, right? And so we actually developed an advanced ER certificate training program where you can go, and it's taught by criticalists, and you basically get this advanced emergency certification. And like I saw the before and after. I didn't know how it was going to go. We were like, oh my god, how are we going to, like, how are vets going to stay, like how do we keep them engaged and not burning out? And so we developed this program, and it's very rigorous. It's like a year-long program, and you go to Vegas twice to do training at Iticus. It's There's a lot of didactic portions and self-paced, and then projects you're doing. um, and then I would like go and watch them in Vegas, and they'd be like studying for these exams that they had to do. Some people would
Wow.
fail. It was like vet school all over again. And I was like, at first thinking like, why are they signing up for this? And it's ended up being something that's very fulfilling. And they would, it was hard, but they would do that, commit to it, and it like sort of refreshed how they feel in practice, which I find really fascinating. And then they would bring it back to the practice and like teach others what they learned. And so the medicine at the entire practice would improve. They'd be like, we need to get high flow oxygen, or like, here's what you can do with the ultrasound that we didn't think we could do before. And that's been something really cool that I think we could consider throughout the field of just like, what are we doing to kind of re-engage the vets who've been out for a while. And then other things that I saw. I'm seeing the younger generations that they also value a lot of flexibility. A lot of people would want to, they of course want to kind of check all the boxes of like, I need good benefits, I need mentorship, but they also want to go out and like travel and explore the world. Saw a lot of that. We have at Veg, and I'm sure this is, true across the industry, but at Veg, we have like, I think 80% of our practicing doctors are in females in childbearing
Mhm.
years. And that's something to consider. And the way that your practice operates, there's a lot of struggles with women who come back from maternity leave, and they're, maybe it's too soon, and they're trying to, pump, and then an emergency comes in, and like you don't get breaks in ER. And so like it's challenging. The hours are really hard if you have daycare, stuff like that. So I think we need to consider that in our jobs. There's a lot. I don't know, anything interesting that you want to know about?
Well, no, I mean these are all things that, because you've been on both sides, right?
Yeah.
Those of us who haven't been on the other side, well, veg is, like I said before, veg is a different beast. Like, they're
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
some of the most positive people I've ever met in my life. As far as their job is so hard. Um, there's so many questions I always have, because I wanted to do emergency medicine. Like, I won the emergency medicine scholarship. Like, I was Mr. Emergency Medicine. Maybe it's because I have ADHD and I don't want to know what's coming in. I always want to be kept on my toes. But like the maternity thing, I always feel, it's once you have a baby, like being a dad, I was like, now I'm a dad, so my life has changed. But being a mom, that really changes it even more, because that bond that they have with their child is through the roof. Like you never screw with mama bear, ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't care if it's a client, a colleague, a professor, you never mess with a mama bear. But when they came back, for maternity leave, do they still work the overnights? Do they still have it in them like they had it before they left for maternity leave? Do I because like, especially with emergency, like I've done some overnight shifts and I'm 52, 53 now. I'm like, there's no way I can do these. Like it destroys me for like 2-3 days. How many moms have to switch to day shifts, or do some of them just still stay on at nights, and does that affect them?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And in my Substack, I wrote about when I was going through it, I had a couple months where I was on so many overnights and I started researching it. And I mean, there's a lot of science out there about how
Hmm.
being a night shift worker affects you and
The
you don't live as
circadian
long
the,
and more
the
morbidities.
circadian rhythm, the circadian rhythm. Am I saying that
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
circadian rhythm like messes with
Yeah.
your hormones, and especially if you're postpartum or you're going either, there's a lot of women either going through IVF or they're postpartum. I mean, your hormones
Mm.
are already unst unstable. They're not normal. You have a lot going on, right? It's a normal thing during those times. But if you add in an overnight, it's just a lot. It's a lot of stress. So when they come back, I would say the clinics that I've worked at, the medical directors have been really, and the teams have been really accommodating of prioritizing them for day shifts. So like 7 to 7, or maybe even like a 12 to 12, like a swing. Um, but that being said, at Veg, we say like
Mm.
everyone has to work every shift. Like if there's a need, so if there's really a need, like you're still going to need to do that. I work with a lot of people who in the last year in the Houston area, we've had a lot of pregnancies, and they will be working overnights, and I just don't know how they do it, because I feel like I'm whining about overnights, but then I see someone pregnant working an overnight, and I don't know, but they do it. And yeah, that's it's really tough, but there are things you can do, obviously, to kind of like mitigate the signs. You probably don't want to do more than two in a row. I've seen a lot of moms go to like maybe two shifts in a row, or doing like one shift and then have days off. At Veg, the minimum number of shifts per month is 10. And so with that, you can actually space out your shifts quite well. So I see that work in the favor. And then you have 20 days off in the month. Um, so that's a pro, but it's not easy. And like the older I get, I've been doing shifts at Veg since I started in like 2020. Um, and it's definitely harder to do overnights. It's harder to do like 3, 4, 5 shifts in a row. And I think you have to start to understand what's healthy for you, because I just did 3 shifts and then had Sunday off and then worked Monday, and it was the holiday weekend and it was super busy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm quitting ER. Like I have those feelings all the time. I won't lie. Like I'm sure there are other people. I look at the people and I'm like, man, you're such a badass ER doctor. Like you're just cool all the time. Like I don't know if I have that in me. And but yeah, you kind of have to know what your limits are. And I don't really have that spiraling if I'm doing 2 shifts in a row.
Well, now that you're a veg, do you ever get that itch? Like, okay, I got to get out of here. I got to get back in the suitcase. I got to go.
Yeah, well, I do all the time. So I'm on Veg's travel team technically, and
Okay,
so
perfect.
we have locations in a bunch of different states, over 20. And so I'm next month I'm going to your state, California, and I will be practicing there. And
In the
so
new one in Costa Mesa.
No, I'm gonna be in Anaheim. I was going
Okay.
to be in like right on the border, like very south San Diego, but no, now I'm going to Anaheim. So we're opening a lot of clinics in the West Coast. So how it works is we have about 40 to 50 doctors on our travel team, and they are trained in the veg way. They're trained in ER so that we don't have to use relief or per diem. We can use our travel team and say, hey, we have a maternity leave at this hospital in San Francisco. And it's going to be from this month to this month. We need a doctor who can cover that. And so that's how we typically send them out. And it's worked really well for us because obviously we have like a kind of funky way of practicing. And so the doctors on the travel team were trained in how to like go into a veg and be able to operate smoothly within that. So I love doing that, and then I travel a lot personally, and I'll work at other clinics sometimes too. I spend a lot of time in Hawaii, and so I'll work at a privately owned general practice clinic there, and I love that. So I get bored really easily, and yeah, I like
Y-
to do a lot of things on the side.
So you have the ADHD as well.
Yeah, 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 totally, exactly.
But still, okay. So, I'm just thinking of recovery at this point, right? So you're on the travel team for Veg. You go and work in another emergency clinic. You're not in your own bed. You're living out of a suitcase. Are you still able to recover, like mentally? Like, because the stress of travel, the stress of not being in your own place, like that's kind of, well, I guess my wife and I are like that. Like, we love traveling, but we're more of, I'd rather have a staycation than go on vacation, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. Are
totally.
are you able to recover? Like,
Traveling is stressful. I don't know. My aura ring says that I'm stressed quite often, so but I do recover. I like get a massage every other week. I do meditations every morning. I have a morning routine, like a practice. I read fiction before bed. So I sleep well, even if I'm doing overnights. I have like very good sleep hygiene. So I can recover. That being said, I've been traveling like pretty much every month for the past like 10 years.
mm,
And I'm quite used to it personally. And so we find a lot of those people who work on the travel team because it's not for everybody. Some people really value the team and going to the same place each time. And so it's a very you'll find a very different type of doctor on the travel team. And like I love when we get together, we talk because we're like, oh, you have like loyalty status with this hotel, and like we do the airline miles thing, and I get like first class on Emirates, and like it's like a game. It's really fun, and so we have the same values. You have to value travel and having new experiences because like when I go to Anaheim next month, I'm like, okay, I've never been to Anaheim, but I know there's a Disney World out there or Disneyland out there, and I have days off, so I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go to the beach, and then I'm gonna try Air One and like all the things. So you have to love doing that. Otherwise, it won't be like recovery for you. Like for me, recharging, I don't need to be in my own home or my own bed. I love hotels and like it just depends.
do they put you up in the hotel? Or is that your expense?
Yeah. No, they pay for all the travel. So the
Wow.
airfare, the rental car or Ubers, meals each day, hotel, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're a W-2 employee, or are you 1099?
Yeah, W-2. Yeah, W-2.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have
Could
full-time benefits. We just have to commit to 10 shifts a month.
Wow. And could you get 1099 through Veg? Because I know there's some corps that allow it and some that don't.
You can, yeah. And I've considered that. I think there'll be a point in my life, probably in the near future, that I can't do the 10 shifts a month anymore. Because they're long shifts. They're like, 13, 14 hours and it's a lot. And it's holidays and weekends and stuff. So I think I'll probably go down to per diem, and you can do that. You just it's preferential if you've been with Veg before, and I'm very close to a lot of the medical directors that I could say like, hey, I'll still commit, 4 shifts for you a month or something. So you could do that too, but you wouldn't have all of the like benefits that go along with it.
Yeah, so talking about the long shifts, because they are long. There are so many cool because I'm a tech geek. So many cool things that have come out. Are there any of the new AI platforms or AI programs or AI equipment you like right now?
Yes, love. So I use AI scribes, and like the moment it came out, I started using it, and it's a
They were
game
just bought
changer.
out too.
Yeah. So I carry around my laptop everywhere, and I'm just like press record. And so I don't, because I don't want to, if I'm working a 13-hour shift, the last thing I want to do is stay 2 hours after and do my records. Or like some doctors who are very like anal about their records they'll do them the next day, or they'll work 3 shifts and then like spend the next day doing records. I can't. When I'm out off of work, I
Mm.
am off. I'm done. You have to have those boundaries. Or at least I do. And yeah, so AI scribes has saved me a significant amount of time. Like I used to kind of mark down how long it would take me after my shifts, and it was usually about 2 hours to do records afterwards if it was a busy shift. And now I don't stay late. I copy and paste my little notes as I'm going through the case.
And
So
done.
I yeah. And so that has been that I mean that's like markedly changed the way that we practice. If you are not using AI scribes, I highly recommend it for anyone listening. It's a game changer. There's no reason not to. It takes much better notes than I ever could.
Right, because I'm
And
doing a lot. I'm doing relief shifts now because I missed it, so I'm getting
yeah.
just dabbling here and there. What blows me away is how many practices have AI scribe and none of the doctors use it.
Oh, yeah, you got to use
You
it.
know, and that gets back to the disruption piece, right? I think this
Yeah.
profession's very slow to adapt, very slow to evolve. Yet
Yeah.
medicine's evolving all the time, and we're a profession of science, yet we don't trust the science. It's just kind of weird. In Orlando at VMX, I got to go finally use I got to sit and use a AI radiology one.
Yeah.
And and the thing is, I want to make it very clear to everyone listening is that this is not the end all be all. It will make mistakes, just like we will make mistakes, but it won't make as many mistakes as we do as humans. But this was so cool. He put an x-ray up there and he's like, "What do you see?" And I saw like 5 things. And then I hit the button. And of course, the AI saw the 5 things I did, but it also pointed out the 4 things I didn't see, which
Yeah.
which is awesome, because if you're looking at a chest film, it's human error to like look at lungs, chest, maybe the back, diaphragm intact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're not looking, oh my goodness, look at their shoulder arthritis. There's a cervical disc that is questionable. It was like pointing out all these things. I thought it was pretty cool. And then
Right.
another one was just out of Israel. You put this machine on a lump, and it has LED lamps in there that heat it up so the blood flow starts, and then AI reads it, and it'll tell you right then and there, is it malignant or benign?
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. Amazing that you can do that. You
Right? Yeah.
otherwise you
If
have
if
to
it does
send it
make a
out to the
mistake and
lab
it is
and
malignant and you said it's benign, yeah. But
double check it. But
right, but
yeah,
it saves a $350 charge and the 4-day wait of a cytology.
right. And like, here's the thing. I think that, and you've talked about this before, that a lot of veterinarians are perfectionists, and so
Mhm.
until it's perfect, a lot of vets aren't going to trust it. I'm more in the same camp as you because I use straight up Chat GPT, and I know like Vin and like other programs have better, maybe like more specific
Vin has a
AI
new
searches.
AI platform now, by the way.
Yeah,
It
and
is
so
awesome. I got to sit there with Paul Pion, Dr. Pion, and he
uh-huh,
showed me it. Oh
yeah,
my gosh. You
it's
you
good.
don't If you're doing research in veterinary medicine, you do not need Google Scholar anymore. I'm just going to put
Yeah,
it out
that's
there.
incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
thank goodness. I'm really glad they did that. I used it the other day. I had a dog with eclampsia, and I was like, "What was a dose of Tums?" I can never remember. and I just asked it the question, and then like, boom, gave me the information. So I use that now. I Before I was using ChatGPT, and I would run everything by it, knowing that there are mistakes, but it would help me catch. It helps you come up with maybe like more differentials, more ideas of things that obviously take your the knowledge and experience that you have, and like look those things up and see what's reasonable, but it still is helpful in
It's an
situations.
assistant. It assists. It's an assistant.
Yeah.
If you use it, it's an assistant. So
Yeah.
other than Scribe, what else have you used that make your life easier?
we Other than scribes, we have our own practice management software that we built, and I
Mhm.
think I think what's coming, because it's still annoying to copy and paste from the scribe to the practice management software. So once it's built in, which I would assume, hopefully, all practice management softwares are going to build in AI scribes to them. I'd say that'll be helpful. And the value, it's been a long journey for us to build this practice management software, but it gets better every day. It was very rough at first. It gets better all the time. And things that it will catch when I'm putting in doses and it's like, this is out of the range. That is very helpful. If you're using drugs that you need to dilute or give slowly, it will have like a caution there. Those things are really helpful from a medical safety standpoint. So I appreciate that. Um, but other than that, in practice, like what else is changing? I think
Have you tried the Nexvet stethoscope?
no, no.
I picked one of those up. I got to talk. Dr. Danny Rabwin knew the owner, and they hooked me up on a good deal on one. So this you put it on your stethoscope, and in there it has the AI, so it records your conversation with the owner, and it downloads it to Scribe or any other the AI programs. But
Yeah.
then you also put it on the chest, and it listens to the chest, and it'll give you your full physical on the heart and lung sounds.
Oh, that's amazing. I want to try that one. What did you say it's called?
Next vet, NX.
Nexvet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It
Wow.
was that was another one. Yeah. See, you're like me. You geek out on all this
I
cool
know.
stuff.
And like, but I'm wondering how good. I had so many pneumonias recently, and then I'm like, I struggle to hear the heart sounds, or like, it's just it's
Well,
easy to second guess.
as you get older, you struggle to hear like
Yeah.
I need it. It has to be at least a 3 out of 6. I'm
Yeah,
getting to that
right,
point.
right.
Like when you're 28, you're like, oh, that's a one. You're like, what?
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Yeah, yeah, questionable. So, yeah, but I don't know. They're not yeah, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily like other, really fancy technology I'm using. That it's pretty commonplace what we use. I mean, ligatures, like that, those things are great. Splenectomies, like,
Oh,
love having that, but that's been around for a little while. So,
yeah.
so that's good. I think what's evolving too, like we think about technology, but I also think it's the way that we practice and communicate, and the expectations from owner, the things that I do now with owners present, having them present for surgeries, having them hold oxygen, watch a laceration repair, maybe we go outside to do euthanasia together or something like that. Those, I think that's where I've seen some practices evolve, and it's something I couldn't go back to. And as we see pets go from being outside to being inside to being in your bedroom to sleeping in your bed, so they're literally like a part of your family.
Being in the
Just
wedding, being the ring bearer.
they're always in the wedding. Yes, all
Yeah.
my vet
Uh-huh.
school friends had their dogs in their wedding. So,
Correct.
yes, it's a thing. And so I think that the way that we see them in the hospitals and the clinics is important, because if you took your child to an ER, you wouldn't want to be separated from them. So,
So
that's also,
can
yeah.
I put you on the spot really quick?
Totally.
Why do you think the veg model is working, but the modern animal vet clinic is having difficulty?
So I can't speak so much for modern animal. I think that there are a few reasons. I've thought about this a lot of like why veg works, and it's like lightning in a bottle. Um, One, ER is a necessity. Like you do have to, like the pets will have emergencies, and so there will always be like cases to see. Um, and people are have heightened emotions in the ER, and they want to be with their pet, and they're so scared to be in there. And then when we say, surprise, you can stay with your pet, they're like, what? I can sleep over? I can, with people sleep over all the time. And so that kind of like blows their mind a little bit. And the pets are very sick often, and so you don't have these healthy pets like trying to like chew each other's heads off, right? You'd have to consider that in general practice, that you have a bunch of healthy dogs. And so if a dog is truly like dog aggressive, it can't just like be out in the
Mhm.
open with another dog. um so I think that's like those are some of the reasons why veg has worked. Not to mention just the focus that we have on culture and like how we treat each other and others. I there's like a very high like moral standard there that we have. So all of those factors together, and and then I guess if we think of modern animal, I don't know necessarily how they're doing. That what I do know is I hear that they're maybe doing better in California than they are here in Texas. I've visited the hospital or the clinic in Texas, and there are things that they're doing well. Those things that they're doing well is like the technology they have and the data that they get on veterinarians and that all of veterinarians have access to is really powerful. Like just a really good coaching tool if you want to have conversations about like how much are we hospitalizing, what procedures are we doing or not doing in what situations, and there's a lot of great data that they have. Now what I've seen from people who are friends or who come into the vet clinic, I think people still love a privately owned practice and feeling like it's like your neighborhood practice. And so in the Houston area, because the modern animals are in a great area here, but like the only thing I can see, and maybe it takes time. Sometimes practices take a couple years to really get going, but I do see that people really want a relationship. They want to be able to access their vet. They don't want to call and talk to a machine, which I don't know if that's what happens. But yeah, I do see a lot of preference for some of the neighbor kind of like neighborhood vet clinics.
Yeah, well, they also have the hands-on approach like veg does. Like everything's done in front of the owner. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I and
Mm-hmm.
I and I think you're right. I think I never thought of it, but I think you're spot on where you're talking about the emotionally charged emergency visit is way different than
Yeah.
the hey, my dog's anal glands are full. And
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
want
want to
you
watch
expressing those in front of me.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, totally, totally.
but
There's something, I mean, it's a different way of practicing. Like you're kind of in these like life or death situations versus like getting vaccines, or anal glands done. So, yeah, it's a little bit different.
you once wrote that medicine's an art, not just a science. So what I took from that is you're talking about the soft skills of being a veterinarian. How important, because you've seen it from both sides, is the culture of the practice or the culture of the organization?
Well, I mean, it's very important. You have to have a culture. Otherwise, like, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? Like, how can you be a team? You kind of have to have like a united front, united mission. And so that is important. Um, I think the reason is that veterinary medicine is hard. We have to do euthanasias. We have to discuss finances in with every single case. Like that is always a factor, and that's really freaking hard. Like we don't learn that in school. Like you have to weigh the trade-offs of everything. So it's definitely an art. You can't There's also there's the soft skills, but then there's even the more technical skills. Like if you talk to a vet who has maybe more wisdom versus like a vet who is newer but like has more like modern, like, oh, we found that this is actually better. Well, like I think you kind of have to put a little bit of value in both. You can't just write off like this person who's had 20, 30 years of experience, with someone, but then you also can't write off someone who's out 5 years and like is really into the literature. So I think you kind of have to choose. There are different ways of going about a problem. But like what it comes down to, I think also what I see a lot in the ER, it was hard for me at first, but like I've had some cases recently that the owners are spending thousands of dollars to try to save their very sick pet. And I know that the odds are not good. That we had a cat that was in congestive heart failure. It was azotemic and had something else going on with it too. It was not a good prognosis. It was quite critical. I also had like really elevated white blood cells and like all these things. And I was like, it would, you might need like 2 or 3 days in the hospital, and it's a maybe. It's very, and these people, they just, they couldn't euthanize their cat right away. Like I think they were going to get there, but they needed to feel like they tried
Mhm.
something. And what I've realized is I personally like want to be like, the odds of, you have DKA and all these other things, like, the odds are not good. I know I rarely see these leave the hospital. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to be optimistic, but like I don't often see that happen. I can't say, I can't predict the future. I don't know if it's will never happen. But a lot of times people spend $4,000 to $6,000 and then end up having to euthanize their pet at the end of the day, and the pet's spending its last days in the hospital. And everyone has a very different, like, you have to be able to read the pet owners and like what is going to be good for them. And you have to balance that with what you know as a doctor. And so, if you know that someone can go and get a huge workup for cancer, but you know that like they're not going to, like, don't keep pushing that option on them, right? Like, help kind of guide them towards giving them all the information that you can, but then guide them towards the answer that's going to help them kind of like mentally be able to and emotionally be able to process that. And so some people, it means like they need to get a few more answers, even though it's not going to change anything. They need to do that. And then other people, it's like, don't give them as many options. They kind of already made up their mind, and it's a fair option too. So it's not black and white. You are always practicing in the gray area.
Well, now that I have all I'm still 26 surveys short on my dissertation, but I'll get there, no problem. My big project that I'm starting, obviously, is moral injury. And so I want to get into that with you. But first, you're very clear on your values. So what exactly are your values that you just cannot, no ifs, ands, or buts, deviate from?
Yeah. So these are like life values for me. And I've spent years, like, I don't think you just sit down and look at Brene Brown's list of values and like choose two. Like, that's a good place to start.
That
Do
was
that.
seventh
But like,
grade. That was seventh grade.
yeah, yeah. So sit with that for a little while, and you want to be really careful. This is the same advice for a business too. You don't choose things that are aspirational. Like, you choose things that are true to you and authentic to you, minus all of the conditioning that's out there, all of the shoulds and blah 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 blah. So when I sit down and do that, what's important to me is my friends and family. Like, I'll always put that over everything else. My family and friends, like, I'm very close to them and I value that more than my job. And that's why I moved back to Texas from New York, is because all my community is here. And I loved my job in New York, but I
Mm.
love my family more. So, family and friends. The second one is like travel and deep experiences. I love like just like really wacky, crazy, wild experiences. I saw a dolphin give birth underwater. I went and did a rhino mission in Africa this year. I'm going to Bhutan this year. I just like love experiencing life deeply. And that includes like the breadth of veterinary medicine, like wanting to try every kind of job out there because there's so many things we can do. Um, the next one is impact and kind of like creative work. I want whatever I'm doing, it's like it to be helpful for people. And that's where I find a lot of my meaning in ER is that I have a skill set that can help people in a time of need when they're hurting or suffering or need help. And then same with the pet. But that impact is what drives me. And we're so lucky as vets that we have such a helpful job that we can do with our hands, that we don't have to be, on the internet all the time. We're really lucky. And then the last one is this like kind of self-care growth. I like mentally, spiritually, physically. I want to kind of take care of all of that. That's important to me. So I do make the time to meditate and read and journal. I've been doing that every single morning for the past 6 or
Seven,
7 years.
years. Yep.
Yeah,
I read
yeah.
that. 7 years. You've been
Yeah.
journaling every day.
Yeah, like lose count. Like I think it was like 2018. I don't remember. But yeah. So that's what's important to me. And anytime I have to make a really hard decision in life, I have to filter it through those. But the tricky part is when your values kind of start to conflict. Then you got to do a little bit of soul searching because they can, like your values can conflict, just like my work and my family kind of conflicted. So there are seasons of life. So you might have one value that like right now, travel's not as big for me. It's like family and friends is kind of like the big one right now. So it just changes. It can change throughout seasons, and that's okay. That's normal. Just make
Right.
sure you're taking the time to reflect on it because you're never going to be happy if you're like, well, I should do this, or I'll be happy when I do this. Like you've gotta see what's right for you, and then find, what makes sense.
Yeah. You and I have a lot in common. I have family, and instead of impact, I put legacy, but I think that's because, as you said, as we get older, right? I'm in the
Yeah,
fourth quarter of my career, and I figured now is the time for me to start leaving a legacy.
I love
Um,
that.
because I wasn't getting fulfillment from veterinary medicine. I did so much for so many people, and I loved my clients, but I think I would have gotten more fulfillment, obviously, if we could do it for free, right? Like save all these
Yeah,
animals for free.
yeah.
Um, the one I didn't hear from you, and I'm interested in, is integrity.
Integrity. Yes, I. I guess it's kind of like it's like how I operate and how I it's more like the fabric of those values because it's how I guess how I go about my business and then how I would choose friends is a lot of what I look for and how I would choose a job like that I'm working for. I have worked in jobs before that preached one thing and then when I practiced on the floor it was very different. Um, so I have to get out of those relationships very quickly. And so I'd say it's kind of like the way I go about things. But I haven't necessarily used it to kind of like say that this is like my bucket of values. How does that look for you?
Well, the reason why I was asking that is I'm trying to put you on the spot again, but you have a great depth as working with a bunch of different corporates, and I'm not no not mentioning names or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there certain corporate groups that go against your values?
Y Yes, yes,
Okay,
there
okay,
are,
okay, okay.
yes, there are. I'm not, like, pro corporate or pro
Right, but
private practice,
right, but you've
um
worked with you're one of my first guests that's worked. behind the scenes, right? And gotten
Yeah.
to experience some.
Yeah.
Because what I'm trying to get at again is like the whole moral injury piece, right? Which
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
you know, I think, it comes down to there's certain corporates, and privates don't do this because privates aren't MBA types from Harvard and Yale and Northwestern and Vanderbilt and all these big time UCLA like MBA programs. Indiana, I
Yeah.
got to throw that in there, North Carolina. Um,
Yeah.
but so so it's like when these groups are looking at the wrong KPIs, they're looking at your average client's transaction, not how many 5-star reviews you've gotten. When they're telling you have to see X number of appointments in a day, when they're telling you have to see all these appointments and reach all these KPIs, but not have enough staff to do it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, obviously, is the cost of care piece, which is the biggest.
Yeah.
So, do you think Veg is getting it right?
I think Veg is doing a lot right, and but not perfect, but a
Okay.
lot right. Like I always said about, so I was chief of staff for David Bessler, who's the founder and CEO of Veg. And like the thing that kind of attracted me to working with him for so long is, I mean, one, total disruptor. Two is the integrity. And coming from like the experiences that I had had before, I've seen the opposite. I've seen what integrity, like when there is not integrity, and that was really hard. And that's when I knew it was time to leave. But when I met Veg and when I worked with David, like his intentions are, they're all pure, and I think most people's are, right? I like to assume positive intent, but like his integrity, like who he says he is who he is, and when he shows up to the clinic and works shifts, it's like the same. I worked with him and traveled with him for years, and like the David Bessler that you like think he is the David Bessler who he is, and the company reflects a lot of that. And I have seen where it gets kind of tested. I've seen where it gets tested. There's a lot of pressures out there. And when we went through a phase where we needed to go ahead and hire all of the quite experienced, like kind of like big gun C suite executives, that puts a lot of pressure. And there was a lot of the reason I had my job too was so that he kind of had more like, what would David Bessler do in
Mm-hmm.
meetings? Because there are moments where you can compromise on things, and we would have to fight all of those battles. It is easier to compromise and like let the business people do the business things, and they know the art of business. But he and then also David Gladstein, who is kind of like business David, Dr. David. They both just they're just doing things differently, and I don't know if that will always be the case. I don't know, but I know that they're doing a lot of things right. And so like for those examples with ACT, or like case volumes and stuff, we look at that. I won't lie, we look at that. But we're also looking, like breaking it down to like how often are we doing POCUSes? How often are we hospitalizing? What types of surgeries are we doing? And like how often and how does that change? And there's no like certain metrics that people need to meet, but it does allow for some data driven coaching opportunities for people. And so
So
it's
at
a
Veg, you use that
balance.
data to coach, to help them, to find
Yeah,
out where
it's
their
a
issues
tool.
are. Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
tool. It is not the only tool. You should be
Yeah.
looking at other things, right? We get NPS, Net Promoter Score, which is like, what would you rate your experience with this doctor at this practice? So we're looking at that too.
Right.
Um,
And
though,
don't you believe that's more important though? Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? I will say that we have coached doctors where their average client transaction or the number of cases that they're seeing is like way out of like the average range, like above, right?
mhm.
Because we're like, why are you taking so many cases? Why is your ACT twice what other people's are? Like, that's not necessarily a good thing. And we've ran into problems that are correlated with how people perceive them and other feedback that they've gotten, like this doctor's recommending too many tests, blah blah blah. And then we've seen it the other way. Like this doctor's not practicing the level of medicine. Like we're missing diagnoses because they're not running these diagnostics. And so it is a tool, and it is not the only coaching tool. It shouldn't even be your primary coaching tool, but it is a tool that you have that can be helpful and help kind of uncover patterns, which a lot of those patterns, like they're very simple. It's like, and I see too many of these, but like new grads, very scared of doing surgeries, and so they're referring away surgeries because they're scared.
You're just
And
walking into my question so
yeah, yeah,
perfectly.
yeah, yeah.
Why are new grads afraid of surgery?
A couple reasons. Like surgery is something that you want to get a lot of reps under your belt. When I first graduated, I worked at a low cost spay neuter, and they taught me kind of like the SPCA kind of sort of gold standard that they use, all the tips and tricks to be faster and safe. And I like had to go through like many like pregnant pit bull spays that were just like hot mess, like to kind of hone my skills, dropped pedicles, like dehiscence. Like I had to, oof, it just is like, but I had so many reps that I could go through and like learn. I just committed to doing that like once a week. And that was so helpful. But if you're a new grad and you're doing it once a week, they're like, how are you going to get really good at that? So I think you have to practice it more, especially in the ER, because we don't know what's going to come in. So ER clinicians, like I recommend to everyone who's in ER, like you got to go somewhere else and like practice surgeries. You just need tissue handling experience. You have to get comfortable in an abdomen. And so I think that practice is like a big piece of it. You have to be able to do that. And you know what? These shelters and these low cost spay neuter places, like they need the help. And it's also really good if you work in a major metropolitan area like me that, um, like you need to see that other side of veterinary medicine. Like you need to see like there are animals that and people that need help that can't afford these giant bills that are going to the low cost spay neuter. So like you can help. And so I think that's part of it. I think the other part is just the perfectionism and the anxiety. And there's a lot of uncertainty when you're doing surgery, and sometimes it ends up bad. I've had to euthanize pets on the table, and that sucks. And but what sucks more is like one, if the owners aren't there and you didn't prepare them for it ahead of time, that sucks even more. So I think it's a matter of like communication skills, practice, and like if you just keep avoiding it, you're going to get more and more scared of it. But if you do it and you prove to yourself that you can do it, like you're building confidence, and only you can do that for yourself.
The good old peek and shriek. I've had a few of those. Yes, I've had. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like first off, there's nothing routine like a routine spay. No spay is routine. It is
No,
no,
no.
no, and that's what new grads. I don't know if they don't understand. Like a cystotomy is 100 times easier than a spay.
A spay is hard. I was scared to do all these emergency surgeries, and then I'm like, wait a second. Well, an RNA is hard, but like a spay is harder than all the other things.
Well, an RNA you think is hard just because you're worried about dehiscence. Like, did I put enough sutures in? Is this going to stay together? Did I close up the omentum? Close up the
Yeah.
I'm brain farting. Blah, blah, blah. The what holds the intestine together with all the vessels in it.
Yeah, like all the mesentery and
The
everything.
mesentery.
Like,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah,
Did I close
yeah.
up the mesentery? Am I going to get all those things? Did I put enough omental fat on there? And omental fat is very important for surgical sites because it has stem cells, so it aids in healing. Those are all things that, oh yeah, I mean, even if you're out 25 years, you still think that, but still it's not. I mean, the problem with the spay, at least when you're doing like an RNA, you could have a 10-inch incision, right? You can't
That's
have
true. That's
you can't have that 10-inch incision because then people look lower on you like, why is your spay incision so big?
You know what? No shame. If you need to do a big spay incision, do it. Like by all
It,
means. It's better to be safe,
right.
and you never know what you're like going into in an abdomen. I've recently had so many abdomens I've opened up with like crazy adhesions,
Oh, yes. I've been there.
and that's just a nightmare. But
Because
like you got to just
your sixth foreign body on the same dog.
Yes, 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 unfortunately. And they're just so gnarly, and like you gotta be confident enough that you know what is normal in an abdomen, and you just gotta like do your best. Like it, I see so many vets be like, especially in the big cities, like, "Ah, we're just gonna refer them to specialty." And like, I'll sit on the phone with these specialty hospitals, and like no one's working on the weekends, like they can't get anybody in. Like
Yeah,
you're their best
that's a new
option.
phenomena nowadays.
Yeah.
Specialty hospitals don't have emergent surgeons available. It's
No, no.
crazy.
And then they have to sit in the ER all weekend, and then $10,000 later, now you're ready to do your surgery.
Right. I had a conversation with a vet student and an early career grad recently, and I basically looked at them, and because the early career grad is like, oh yeah, I turf, I turf, I turf, I turf, and I finally looked at the early career grad and I said, what if you were the last line of hope? They can't afford the turf, right? They can't afford 12, but they can afford 4,000. Would you do it then? And it totally changed the way she was thinking about it. Like, there are a lot of people that can afford veg, at least in Southern California. There are a lot of
Oh,
people that can
absolutely.
Blue
I
Pearl,
completely agree.
VCA,
Yeah.
all these phenomenal, phenomenal places, phenomenal surgeons, phenomenal medicine, but phenomenal prices, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how those businesses operate, which like that's fine. That's that model, but like it doesn't serve everybody. And so I do think it's good to get well-rounded in veterinary medicine. So that's the art of it. Like you have to meet people where they're at, and you have to be confident enough that like you can help them and not be so worried about getting sued or whatever. Like just do the right thing, and like you won't like you don't have to worry about that stuff. And if you do, you got PLIT, so you're fine.
You call yourself a recovering high achiever. What does that mean?
Yes. Yeah, like mini vets, right? We have to have the g- almost 4.0 GPAs to get into vet school. We have to get all the hours, do all the
Okay,
externs.
let's stop right there really quick. Do you think that's a problem?
Yeah, totally, totally. I think it's I
Do you
think
think
let's
we're
look for the
missing great possibilities by using that as our number one filter?
For sure, for sure. I don't think that should be number one. I think you have to be able to handle the medicine, and it is intellectually challenging, and so you need to probably have like 3.2 or higher. But I think you've got to say like, okay, we met that threshold. Then the GPA doesn't matter anymore. We're looking at the other stuff. Like, were you a technician before? What kind of experience have you had? What's your emotional intelligence? What's like kind of your resiliency level? Like, like how that those things are going to be much more important. Otherwise, you're just setting someone up to kind of be pretty unhappy in
I,
practice.
I wow, you just my first dissertation, which I couldn't get any surveys filled out for, you totally covered most of them. The one things you left out were the emotional demands of the profession.
Yeah.
Can you handle that? And of
Yeah.
course, what's your professional identity? What are your values going in? Like,
Yeah.
like, and I hate it.
Yeah.
Everyone uses it. Even the researchers use work life balance. Don't like that term, but like, if you know, if that's your number one value, work life balance, your first 5 years, which are probably the most critical, are not going to be good
Oh, it's gonna
because
be tough.
you're going to be
But
hustling. You're going to be grinding.
I don't think you're ever gonna reach work-life balance. I think I would challenge people, if that's your value, to get more specific. What is your value? Like mine is like, I want 8 hours of sleep. I want to be able to be in bed reading a fictional book an hour before. I want to be able to take a lunch break. And here's where I don't align with veg. I like, if I could change one thing, I would add a lunch break. I can't work for 13 hours and not take one break. I need a break. And so like that's hard for me. Like just being honest, but like you got to figure out what that is for you. It's
Just
not
tell me you're
necessarily
pumping.
hours worked. Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm like so jealous, of like they can kind of like
And
go in the
I
room for
say
20
that just
minutes.
as in a facetious way. I do not mean that, but
Yeah, no, but
yeah,
it's doable because like the all my friends who are new moms and they're pumping, they were like worried at first coming back. They're like, what if a stat comes in? And they're like, well, like our veterinary nurses like are gonna handle it. Like they know it's the same thing that always happens. Like I'm usually just talking down the owner, but like they can do all of the things that like I would normally do, place a catheter, give oxygen, like, and so then that gives you enough time to like go get the person. So like you're gonna be okay. You can take a break. Um, so yeah. So anyways, like I think you just need to get really specific about what work life balance is for you because you're probably just like not filling that bucket enough. If I'm like not getting to work out for 4 days in a row and getting like a 60 sleep score, then like I'm not in a good place. But I know that specifically that's the problem, and so I know how to fix it.
correct, exactly.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and you, because I heard like in Orlando, I saw all these new grads walking around. They're happy and seeing their classmates and stuff. But I would always eavesdrop, which I know I'm not supposed to do. That's not polite. But I mean, they're all talking about, oh my God, I'm working so hard. I'm so tired. I'm all this and that. And it's like, well, if you don't tell anybody, no one's going to know that. And if they make you feel bad, then you're probably not at the right place.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but you got to be vocal. Like you got to be vocal about it.
Yes.
But
A
I
lot
can
of
tell
it's
you,
tougher in silence.
right. But if you're not in vet school yet and you're thinking you're going to go in there and you're going to just see puppies and kittens and you're going to get all this free time and it's going to be great. I mean, the best thing about getting into vet school is I knew I would always have a job. I would never be unemployed no matter what,
Which is a
right?
valuable thing that we take for granted
Right.
easily.
But there's a price you pay to be employed, which is when you are going to be somewhere, chances are you're going to be grinding when you're first out of school because
Yeah.
most of these kids, unfortunately, do not, I say kids, young professionals don't have a good mentor. So you're going to have to look up a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. You're going to have to phone a friend, you're going to
Yeah, that's really
hopefully
important.
use your RVTs that have been doing it for 10, 12 years, that have seen stuff that can help guide you. Um, yeah, that's a big one that people are missing.
Yeah.
And then another question I had, you talked about levers we could pull. What levers should we pull and when should we pull them?
Oh, levers we can pull. Let me go back to that article. What did I mention in there? I think was this in kind of talking about just like if you are kind of feeling burnt out, like
Yes.
what kind of things that you can do.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, because you're not stuck. You're not stuck. One, there's so many jobs out there for veterinarians. I was thinking when you were saying you could play with like, do you want to like take care of puppies and kittens all day? You can do vaccine clinics. I personally love a good vaccine clinic. I do those for fun sometimes. And it's so freeing because you go there and like the payment's already taken care of. There's kind of like a line. You're like at a Petco or something. There's like a line and like there's somebody who's taking payment. They're like, which package do you want? And then like they come to me and I'm like, hi, like XYZ vaccine. Like, great. It's like, it's very enjoyable to do that. And so that exists. Like, don't, hate on the vaccine clinics. People need vaccines. They're affordable. It's easy to get. It's convenient. You can do that. So that's something. So if you're feeling kind of like burnt out in your practice, the first thing you need to do is just get really clear about like what is it that's hardest for you. It's not like when things are hard, it can feel like everything is hard. I need to quit. But maybe if you figure out what it is specifically for you, is it your schedule? Is it that you can't be working every Saturday because every single Saturday you care about family and like they're all having grill outs or something and you can never be there? That's really hard, but you can find a job where you don't have to work on a Saturday. Those exist. You can do it. So figure out what that is for you, and then you have to talk to your medical director about that. and see, if they can make that change or help you make that change within reason, right? For me, like too many night shifts or too many shifts in a row, I start to get like really, really negative and down, and I'm like, I can't do ER anymore. And so I've I've I learned the hard way many times, but you need to write it down of like what is affecting you so that you can start to recognize some patterns, and make those changes. So you can change jobs. You can have like resources outside of vet med. It's not your whole identity. So what are your hobbies outside of vet med? Spend time on those. Like that, it's don't let vet med be your entire identity. It's maybe that can work for some people, but like I do think that it's healthy to have things that you like to do outside of it. And then you could do what I did. I took a sabbatical last year and I loved it. I like it was it was amazing. I read this book called Retire Often, and it was like you can kind of like take little breaks throughout your career, and I actually would think that veterinarians are in a prime position to be able to do that. My husband's a financial planner for vets, and like he's now had multiple clients who have been able to take sabbaticals. Someone even took a year, and like I took 3 months, which was really good. But then I had another friend who took 2 months after that, and so it's just a break, right? When you're growing up, when you're in school, you have summers off, you got your winters off. Um, like sometimes you just need a break. You need a timeout. There's a lot of different sports players, right? They got a timeout. They have different seasons where they're really on and really off. And so, if that's something that you can do or that you want to do, sometimes you need to plan for it. I did start planning for mine about a year in advance. There's lots of things you have to plan for, just like the logistics of your job, who's going to take over the responsibility that you carried. You don't want to leave people hanging. How are you going to pay for it?
Money, money.
Exactly. Yeah, but veterinarians are you can do very well as a veterinarian, and if you're smart about your money and the way you spend, um, if taking a sabbatical or a break is important to you, you can do that. And so, like the way I do that with my values, you'll notice one of my values was not home; it was family and friends, but it's not
Mhm.
home. And so, I live in a 500 square foot condo, me and my husband, with our cat Francois, and we don't value home is less what we value. It's more us together. But we spend our money on travel. We're not spending so much money on a home. So we're spending that on travel. We take our cat to Hawaii twice a year, and that's like our home. That's our family time for us. And so you got to get really clear about what those values are, and maybe your value is a home, and like that's what you're working towards. So that's great. Like spend time rejuvenating at home or designing your home or whatever makes you happy, hosting people.
Yeah, that's wow. I, I I never thought. I took a 9 month sabbatical after I quit, and I was ready to put my head through a wall, and that's why I started all this other fun stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, because right, you grind through high school, then you grind through undergrad, then you grind through vet school, and then you grind when you graduate to learn to be able to pay off your student loans, to start a family, all those things. It is so hard when that just stops, right?
Oh,
Because
I
it does.
bet.
It
Yeah.
does. And I actually had to before I was about to step away, well, they asked me to step away. That's a different podcast for a different time. Um, that I actually, because I was at Pepperdine, they included in your tuition as a therapist, and they helped prep me for it. And thank goodness I talked to somebody. I mean, because I, even if you're going to take a sabbatical, I still recommend seeing therapy before you do it, so you know what you're
Yeah.
about to happen, because you go from grinding to nothing. And it sounds great, and it is great, but your brain does not know how to shut off.
Or your body. I think your body can't adjust. It's an identity change. And like, and I feel for anyone going through a transition like that. And my transition was like, my identity was, I was on this path to kind of be this career woman, and like, I was in this corporate job, and like I wanted to keep climbing the ladder, and then I was like, oh no, I'm moving back to Texas, and I'm like going to the floor. Like
Mm.
that has been a change for me. And then like we want to start a family, and so that I'm just there's so much change and I like kind of identity crisis that I yeah, for sure talk to a
You want to
therapist. I
start a
need
family in 500 square feet? Good luck with that
to
one.
Okay, we bought a new condo that's a 2 bedroom in the same area, and we're gonna keep this one. And so we're renovating it now, so we'll have 3 bedrooms, but it's very unconventional because this will be like our office and guest suite, and then that'll be like our home. So we're
Yeah, exactly.
preparing.
Well, perfect. There you go.
Do
Exactly.
whatever you need to do that's unique to you. But yes, I agree during transitions. And when you take a sabbatical or a break, it doesn't mean that you need to do nothing. I was really focused on writing. I wrote a Substack every day. I was working on my business, the Evolved Vets, and then I was relaxing too, and like just spending more time with my family, so they weren't like, "Oh, Anna's always working." And so like if you want to take up a hobby, if you want to build a house, renovate a house, or like take up cooking, or like go volunteer for 2 months in Africa, like do you can have a mission for that sabbatical. And I would
Right.
encourage you to do something like that. We did some bucket list travel. I took my dad, he's always wanted to go truffle hunting in Italy, and we did that and could check that off the list. And so I kind of had a little bit of a mission during that time. So I would encourage you to do that too. If there are things that are on your life bucket list, like don't sit on those, don't sleep on them. Go make a plan and make it happen.
And last question. What does enough look like to you now?
When I think of enough, I think through the lens of my values. Like, am I waking up each day and maybe I don't get to all the values every day, but like in the course of, a couple days, a week, am I touching on those things that are important to me? Am I getting family time? Am I getting to have a cool experience? Maybe like go to a new restaurant with friends. Am I able to work out and kind of do my journaling and have a clear mind? Am I able to help people? That is enough for me, and I've had to like learn this lesson. I didn't know what it was the past few years. I always wanted more. I'm a maximizer. I have an article about maximizers versus satisficers, and I think satisficers tend to be a little bit happier, but maximizers were always trying to like get the most out of everything. And so I've had to learn to satisfy a little bit more. Um, and really, it's just like you can only think about like the day you have in front of you. It's really easy to get carried away. I do it all the time, but like when I think of the day in front of me, and I'm like, I've got my husband here, I've got my cat here, I have a job where I get to be helpful, I'm healthy. Like that is enough, and it's something I have to remind myself of. So yeah, if you're not sure, if you're like, I'll be happy when, just kind of count your blessings now. It's very easy to stew on the bad and kind of forget or skip over some of the good.
Well, that's human nature, right?
Yes, the human
You
condition.
what is that? What is that saying? 3% of your clients are going to make you quit your job in veterinary
Yeah,
nursing,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
forget
yeah.
about the 97% that love you, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's just very common. So,
yeah.
and if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Anna Foster, DVM. And you could email me, annafosterdvm@gmail.com. I have Dr. Anna Foster on Instagram and TikTok, but I deleted those apps off my phone. I think I'll get back on, but I'm really focused on things that are in real life, and so I deleted those. It was a distraction for me during this season.
Yeah. Well, no, it depends what you do. I mean, there's even when it comes to this profession, there are people that are posting stuff out there to help you, and there are people that are posting things out there that just trying to help themselves. And
Yeah.
I love talking to the ones who really care a lot about the profession and love the profession just like you do. And I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I hope to see you when you're in Anaheim. If you're going to be here for a
Yeah.
month, I better see you.
Oh, that'd
And
be great.
Francois,
We'll
is
plan it.
Francois coming too?
Maybe if I can steal him away from my husband for one of the trips. I'm going. I have two
Yeah.
different trips out there, so maybe I could do that.
Yeah. And then to all the listeners, if you have any questions, you can just hit me up. Just send me a message on our DMs on all the platforms. VetMed HQ is the main one we're running with now. And this profession is amazing, but it does take it does take a toll, and it is a grind. And just remember, we've all been through it, and there are a lot of lessons that we discuss here that are not in textbooks. So, Anna, thank you so much for being with me today. And to all the listeners listening out there, we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks, Dr. G.